I love that I was handed not only a married superhero, a happily married superhero, but a superhero with a child, a unique child who has unique abilities and needs to be raised in a unique way. I find this to be.
Well, now that Event Leviathan is over, we actually have word that it's not over. There's going to be more one-shots and miniseries. And with me to discuss it today is Ash from Ash on Comics. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, it's been great to be here. Thanks for having me on this.
Yeah, so you're one of the few people I think that actually slogged all the way through this event with me. So
Yeah.
you're probably not going to enjoy this news very much either. But first, I'm going to read the article from Sam Stone at CBR.com. While Event Leviathan may have come to an end, the impact of the comic book crossover and debut of the clandestine organization will be felt throughout DC Universe in 2020. This February, DC Comics is publishing Leviathan Dawn, an oversized one-shot special reuniting the Event Leviathan creative team of Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev. Bendis confirmed that this issue would serve as both an extended epilogue to the recently concluded crossover, but also serve as a fresh jumping-on point to the story for those who may have missed it. Additionally, Bendis revealed that Leviathan stories would expand across much of DC's publishing line across the coming year. This is going to be kind of what the format is for Leviathan Saga moving forward, explained Bendis in an interview with CBR. There's going to be specials and miniseries that connect to a larger story as it goes in Fallout and books themselves, not just the ones I'm writing, to other books with any character that showed up in Event Leviathan, like Batgirl. The fallout will be felt in their books too. Event Leviathan had the various intelligence agencies and organizations within the DCU systematically dismantled by a new mass villain named Leviathan and his own private army. By the end, Leviathan was still active on the loose, revealed to be a familiar DC Comics character, while the heroes were left reeling by the organization's explosive arrival. Does that get you excited about Leviathan moving forward, Ash?
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to buy. No, no, it absolutely does not get me excited at all. I think it's funny that he mentions it serves as a good epilogue and a jumping on point. The thing about Bendis, especially with Event Leviathan, we're talking about, you can jump on at any point because nothing's happened. You didn't miss anything.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, like he did I think a 6-issue run up in Action Comics, an 80-page special, and a 6-part miniseries, and nothing happened but the character reveal.
Yeah, it was literally like that. And the first couple of issues of Event Leviathan sort of tricked me. I thought something was happening, and the characters are running around, they're investigating, and I'm like, "Ooh, something's happening behind the scenes, and it's going to be this big reveal." And then they just kept talking about it and said, "No, you're Leviathan. No, I think you are. No, I think you are. No, I think you are." And then at the very end, "Oh, it's this guy. Ta-da!" And that's it. The end.
So, what did you think of the reveal? Were you excited that it was a character you'd never heard of or weren't invested in?
I would have been excited that it was a character I'd never heard of or was invested in if they had put that into the story somewhere. If in a story where you're going to do a twist like that, it's important that you go back and you write in clues to the twist and the reveal in the beginning so that you can go back in issue, say 1 or 2, and you can go, "Oh, look, that guy, that was him all along." There was never anything like that in this story. It was just, hey, this guy that we never mentioned, that we never talked about, ta-da, it's him. Just out of nowhere, out of left field. Bendis should have introduced like 6 characters that we'd never heard of in the beginning of the book and just sort of had them doing things, and then it turns out one of them all along, was Leviathan.
Yeah, it's so strange that I think the only, I believe in issue 5, they're like, "Oh, it must be a Manhunter." Okay, there's been a lot of Manhunters. They were
right?
The precursors to the Green Lantern. They explained it all in issue 6. But it's such probably the flattest reveal I've ever read in a comic book. I wasn't expecting much, but it was still deflating.
It makes me wonder, is Bendis setting up a possible Manhunters book in the future and deciding, like, I'm going to bring this back and turn it into a thing and make Manhunters? And wow. Yeah. It's funny. Also, he mentions Fallout. The Fallout's going to be felt. Well, that's the only thing that I'm absolutely confident, but not the Fallout that he thinks. I think it's going to be a Fallout of just all the brokenness of the continuity and the characters.
Yeah, it was really strange. This wasn't. People weren't very excited for the event. It didn't sell very well from the very beginning, and people, grew tired of it. We just talked about it on a panel. A lot of people just jumped off after an issue or two. It's not like this is a big success. You're like, oh, we need a backup Leviathan with some. You need to get that character out, like the Batman Who Laughs who was an integral part of Dark Knight's Metal, and they did his miniseries. Sold like gangbusters. Like, get the Batman Who Laughs, who I don't personally like very much, get him out there because people are attached to the character and they like him. That's not the case here, but they're treating him like that. Can you explain that? Is it just the Bendis effect of DC Comics?
My personal opinion on this is it's the Didio effect. This seems right in line with Dan Didio's. We're gonna force feed you. Take that spoonful of medicine or whatever and just force feed it down your throat. You don't like this character? Well, we're just gonna keep ramming it down your throat until you do. And no matter how, it's like the New 52 all over again. It's just like, we don't like it. Too bad. Take more. Until eventually someone else above his pay grade steps in and says, hey, let's do some changes. And that's what this reeks of more. I feel like Bendis is just a dog off the leash running around, and you're like chasing him down the street. Although in this case, it's not Didio chasing him down the street. It's Didio going, oh, look, there's my dog running down the street. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it feels like Bendis was brought in for a much greater purpose than just to write comic books. He's brought in a ton of talent with him as far as writers and editors, and his influence is just growing month after month. He has his own set of books, Pearl, Cover, all those United States of Murder Inc. He's the only one that gets his own self-published comics at DC. He's got his own imprint at Wonder Comics. He has both Superman titles. He now has a Legion of Superheroes. And the writers that he's brought in are also, they're on all the best books. They're on Aquaman. They're on Wonder Woman. And he just has so much influence. What is it going to take for the management at DC to maybe get a clue and realize that he's hurting the brands?
I think it's going to take the exact same thing that it took to get rid of Axel Alonso. I think it's going to take an utter failure. It has to get worse, unfortunately, before it gets better. And, I hear a lot of people mentioning about, oh, well, Bendis doesn't sell. And it's, unfortunately, that's true in some cases, but also not true. Young Justice sells pretty well based on the day's market. And Superman has numbers that are close to around what Tomasi was doing. So you could make arguments about that.
Well, those Tomasi books were shipping twice monthly. And if you look at the same point on the same issues numbers, it's actually not very close. Well, it's about 20,000 under.
Yes, and there's different things as a fan I would make, that Tomasi was taking over a New 52 and he was building up a Superman that was already ruined, whereas Bendis is riding off the high that Tomasi built. There's a lot of, I'm just saying an argument could be made. Mm-hmm. If you're a bean counter over at DC, you're not really into comics, and someone's like, explain this to me. Those are arguments I could make to someone who didn't know about comics, and they'd be like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Fans know better, but fans don't run DC Comics. And so I think what it's really going to take is when a failure so bad, if Superman getting in the 20,000 sales range, that you can't argue anymore. That's what was happening over at the Axel Alonso, when books were just being utterly rejected. Fans were like, no, we'll take a lot. And Marvel fans will take a lot. And they were just like, enough. We're not buying this crap. And books were getting into the single digit, thousands.
Well, his Jinx World books, those are all under 10,000 now. And they're still publishing some of them.
I believe my guess would be that's probably a legal arrangement. That when he came over, he had part of his contract. But the big titles is what really matters. DC doesn't care about those. Just publish them, whatever. But Superman matters as a flagship title. And if it starts getting in the 20,000 sales range, you can't make excuses any longer. And that's what I think it's going to take. I think it's going to take a point where people like Didio and whoever else is supporting this can't make excuses to their bosses. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's pretty frustrating. I know I'm a DC Comics reader. You're more of a DC fan than Marvel, although you started out as a Marvel fan. And I pretty much lost faith in DC Comics. There's still some good titles. Black Label has some stuff that you can go and read, and it feels like an oasis away from some of the worst stuff that's going on at DC. But are you starting to lose faith in DC as a fan?
I am losing faith in DC from a top-down position for sure. I am a massive Marvel fanboy. Marvel is my favorite of the two universes. And my only thing about why I'm in DC is because when I came back into comics, it was during the Oxo Alonso time, and things were terrible. I couldn't bring myself to read Marvel. And so I was like, hey, I'll check out this new universe of DC that I've avoided forever. And Jeff Johns' Rebirth won me over. It was fantastic. And DC still has a lot of the better talent pool, and there's a lot of good things still happening at DC. So I still cling to the things I love. I really like what Venditti's doing, Scott Snyder's doing, Peter Tomasi. There's other names that, we don't want to go in the weeds with here now, but there's things that are going good. Unfortunately, they're kind of off on the sidelines usually. And at DC, it's the big titles. They're Batman, they're Superman, they're Wonder Woman, all the flagship titles that everyone knows. Those are the ones that are being poisoned, and it's creating a big perception. It's sort of steering the ship, if you will. And no matter how hard, Venditti works to make Hawkman awesome, Hawkman can't save DC. That's not why people are DC fans. They're fans because of all the big Justice League characters. They want their Green Lantern to be good, their Superman to be good, their Batman to be good. And I don't have faith. You can be the best writer in the world, but if your management, if the publisher says, hey, we want you to destroy Flash. Hey, we want you to ruin these characters. Hey, we want you to rewrite Doomsday Clock, which is my conspiracy theory, so that it no longer matters. What are you going to do? The writer, they're powerless.
Mm-hmm. So, let's get back to Event Leviathan and kind of put a bow on this conversation. It was so disappointing just as a reader. What he had set up was very long-winded and boring, but when he finally got to the event, I was like, wow, he everything is actually in place for a good story. He's got all the characters he needs. The setup is all there. This could be a fun mystery. He's got 6 issues to do it. He's going to have to work a little faster than he normally did. And he didn't deliver at all on any level. And people are like, well, I like the art from Alex Maleev. Well, I say that he's not a superhero artist. He should be on like crime noir books, or maybe like a dark and gritty Batman, or maybe a question book. But anything with super powered characters, it doesn't suit his art style. So I don't even think that was good. Is there any way to salvage Leviathan at this point, or do you think it's just a dead character and dead weight at DC Comics?
Well, I do think that there's a way to salvage the character, and that's just with a different writer. The problem right now is that Bendis sort of seems to think that he can just put a character on a page and you'll like it. He doesn't have to give any background story. He doesn't have to do any character development. It's just, here's a character, I made him, ta-da, and we're supposed to be impressed. This is what he did with Naomi. This is what he did with, Teen Lantern we discussed on your aficionado show. There's no backstory. There's nothing. And it's the same thing here. The only backstory we have to this Leviathan character is his old school backstory that doesn't really matter anymore because now he's Leviathan. He's not that guy anymore. And if you got a good writer that came on and said, okay, I want to develop this guy and make him matter, I think I could be on board. But he looks cool. I got to hand it to Alex Maleev. When Leviathan's standing around, he's got a cool, imposing Darth Vader-ish vibe. And a good writer that says, I'm going to give this guy a backstory and do something with him, that's the thing. He's got to matter. Characters that don't matter, no, it doesn't matter how cool you look. If you don't matter, why do I want to read?
Last question. I think you saw this probably. Brian Michael Bendis is comparing his Leviathan character to Magneto. Do you think that's a valid comparison at this point?
It's a joke of a comparison. You have to have some serious cojones to compare one of the most iconic villains in comic book history. Magneto is like top 5. I'm not even talking just Marvel. Across Magneto is huge. He's transcended the X-Men he's an Avengers villain. He's an Iron Man. He's everybody villain. And this is a character that's beloved by many. Magneto has been one of the few characters that's transitioned to being both a villain and walking the steps of a sort of hero and done it successfully. Normally that's a big no-no. Don't ever do that, but they did it with Magneto and it made it work. He's got this touching backstory and a huge understandable motivation behind him, being part of the Holocaust, which, you know, that in itself is pretty powerful. Again, Leviathan's got nothing. It's just this guy that no one knows. Unless you've been reading comics for 60 years, you're like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, that character. But they didn't do in-depth characterization back then. Like, he's just a guy in a mask. And they took the mask off, and now it's like Kylo Ren. I don't care anymore. He took the mask off.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. It was a very good discussion. I will talk to you again soon, my friend.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Later. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.